This is chapter number 9, Traders, Kings, and Pilgrims. Chapter 9. The story starts with Jagini. Jagini is waiting for fair, Mela, in the village. Because what she sees here is pots and pans of shiny steel, plastic buckets, and then very good floral design cloth, uh, clockwork toys. Now she has one thing in her mind. So whosoever comes, that is the trader who comes here, in the evening they go back. Means whatever they get from wherever they bring these thing to sell, they pack it and they go back. So this is the question in her mind. That is the question we are going to solve, or you can say solve for Jagini. But we'll go back. I'm talking about trade and traders. So we have read about this Northern Black Polished Ware, NBPW. Northern Black Ball Polished Ware. We have talked about this, and this is a kind of pottery, clay pottery, and this was found by archaeologists at various places in the subcontinent. So the question arises, how do these utensils or wares or pottery, NBPW, they went different places. They reached different places. So this was done by the traders. It's assumed that the traders might have taken all these to different places. So South India was famous for various things. The first thing is the gold, Sona, gold. There is one more gold, and what was that gold? That was called black gold. It's not that gold which we are talking about. It's a black gold, because in southern India, apart from gold, there is one more thing which is called spices. People used to come from long distances in order to get gold and the spices, Indian spices, like there are various things like black pepper, like the tej patta, cardamom, and kalmi, tej patta, this small elaichi, big elaichi, all these. And this kali mirch, this black pepper, is the black gold. Kali mirch pepper is the black gold. So two things we are talking about: actual gold and the one of the spice that is called pepper, that is called the black gold. So from the Roman Empire and from various other places, people would come through sea route, long voyages they will take in order to get all this. How do we know that the Romans were trading? Because at Pudukottai, Tamil Nadu, we have gold coins. Roman gold coins were found, right? So these are the coins I am showing that is evidence that we were trading with Romans at that time. So traders means those who buy and sell, and in between they get the profit. So these traders, they have taken long routes. If you see, from Italy, that is Rome, to India, it's a very long voyage. So they might have taken the route which is closer to the land, that is the sea and land where they meet, or there are some traders who used to take the benefit of monsoon. Previously the boats or the steamers were made like this. They were not very sophisticated. They were sturdy, strong, but not that sophisticated, because the navigation technologies and the ship technology, all that was not developed at that time. So the cloth was there, and this cloth would take wherever the air is coming from, where it will take the benefit, and then it will roll or it will navigate, right? So this is how India has a monsoony, or you can say monsoon kind of climate. So this monsoon, Mausam, all these words have come from the Arabs and Iranians, because they were calling this air, this incoming monsoon and outgoing, as monsoon, Mausam. So the ships would have been very strong, very sturdy, because the voyage is quite long. So they have to come through the Arabian Sea, which is at the left coast of Indian peninsula. Now I'm talking about the South India. South India, if you talk about subcontinent India and the neighboring countries, we have a very long coastline, means where the land and sea meet. So we have inside, if we come, we have hills also, plateaus and rivers also. For example, I can give you Kaveri. Kaveri is Krishna Kaveri, So Kaveri is the land of Kaveri where it comes and does the sedimentation. That land is quite fertile, and the people out there, chiefs and other people, the kings, they got quite wealthy. So what we have learned earlier, Sangam Sahitya, Sangam poems, as we have known that Madurai is the place where the South Indian poets would come and the Sahityakar or the artistic people would come, and they will try to combine or compose all this what they are saying. So in this Sangam Sahitya, we get a word called Movendar. The word is called Movendar, and Movendar means three chiefs, Teen Mukhiya, three chiefs. So who are they, these three chiefs? You have to learn this by CCP. Chola Chera Pandya or Chera Chola Pandya. CCP. These were Movendars, these were three chiefs that was mentioned in the Sangam Sahitya. Movendar, let me tell you again. Sangam Sahitya, Movendar. Movendar means three chiefs. Three chiefs were Chola Chera Pandya, and these were different kingdoms. Okay. So this I am talking about 2300 years back. CCP. They were quite powerful in the lower part of southern India. And I'm just giving an example of one of these, so you'll understand others also. Pandya, they have 2 point of governance, 2 location of governance. For example, Pandya has Madurai as the governance point inside, that is not on the sea coast, but inside the land part. But there is one part, say Khorkhai. This position was the governance of at coastline. So Chola, Chera, Pandya, they all have 2 point of governance. So in all they have six. Okay. Chola, Chera, Pandya, they don't have that much of you cannot call them together. They were separate entities, separate kingdoms. But every regime has one inside and one outside. For example, as I said, Pandyas have one center of governance as Madurai. If you go to Cholas, they have the coastal governance point as Puhar or Kaveri Pattanam. Let me take you there. Puhar or Kaveri Pattanam. See there, Kaveri Pattanam. This is also called as Puhar or Kaveri Pattanam. So these are two. Every kingdom has 2 points because they were coastal sea. And most of the poems which the poets have written, that's how we came to know that what was happening at that time. The kings and the chief would give these poets a lot of money, like precious stone, gold, horses, elephants, chariots, fine cloth. That is how they praised them, and that is how we know what was happening at that time. Now Chola Chera Pandya, 2300 years back. After 200 years, that is 2100 years back from today, there was an empire called as Satvahan. Satvahan, it has nothing to do with 7, right? Satvahan, that was Satvahana, that's the name. So it was a kind of a great empire, Satvahana, and that is just lower middle area of India, you can say. It's not southern India, it's not middle India also, central India. So the famous or the most important ruler of this Satavahanas were Satakarani. And this Satakarani, the mother of Satakarani was Gautami. Her full name was Gautami Balashri. Gautami Balashri, and her son called Satakarani was one of the most important ruler of the Satavahanas. Okay. So we get this information from the inscription which was made on behalf of Satkarni's mother. So these Satvahanas were called as Lords of Dakshinapath. They were called, the Satvahanas were called as Lords of Dakshinapath. Dakshin means south, Path means Rasta, means way. So in order to get into south, actual south, that is Chola Chera Pandya regime, how to come from the north to south? That is the Dakshinapath. And that is why they were called as, Satvahanas were called as Lords of Dakshinapath. Now, one important discussion which we are talking about is Silk Route. And as I just said that the Gautami Balashri, what her inscriptions were, and that is how we know about Satvahana. Similarly, this Silk Route also has a lot of story to be told. What is Silk Route? A route? Is there some silky route or some silk is there? Right? It's not like that. The Silk Route has nothing like that. Silk Route, let me show you this picture. This picture is showing a cloth which is fine, which is glossy, which is very smooth, like chikna, chamkila, mehenga. Means it's rich, glossy, smooth. And this kind of fabric was popular in the rich societies. Rich society, this silk was very famous. And the way to make this silk was quite tough, very difficult. So how do we do this? See, this is the shahtut tree. And here we have the shahtut, you can say worms, we call them as silkworms. Now these silkworms, they eat this shahtut leaves. So they make, at one point of their life, they make a cocoon outside them. You can say a covering. And this cocoon is what is used, this is a raw silk. This is raw silk. And these worms I'm talking about, they were called as silkworms. And this cocoon, which at one point of their lifetime they make, that cocoon is used to make the silk, actual silk. That is why it's so difficult, because how much a cocoon will give you silk? Not that much, right? But Chinese, 7,000 years back, they knew how to make this silk. 7,000 years back, right? And after that, long time nobody knew. But the traders of China, they used to take this silk from one place to another. That is how the outside world came to know that this kind of cloth is also available, which is quite fine, very good. Okay, that is how it went to Europe, Rome. So the Roman people, Roman chiefs were quite fond of this. So 2000 years back, as I said, this silk was quite popular with the rich and rulers of Rome. So that is how going from China to these different parts, there is not a single route. There are different routes, and these routes to take this silk cloth and take to different part of the world at that 2000 years back. So these are different routes I am showing you. These all were the routes that are called silk routes, because silk, the traders used to take this silk, take this route path, and then go to sell it. We'll give an example of India, that is Kushanas. So Kushanas, Kushanas have Takshashila, Mathura is the second capital, and all these areas they were in control. So these Kushanas were doing what? And all other regimes were also doing the same thing for the Silk Route. So what they will do, say Takshashila, Peshawar or Mathura, this route was in the control of Kushanas. So this is Takshashila, we have Peshawar also, and then we come to other part which is the second capital of Kushanas, Mathura. We already discussed about that. So we have Mathura, this TM you have to remember, that is Takshashila and Mathura. So this is one of the Silk Route. It is coming from Central Asia and coming to the port. That is the port where it can be kept on or loaded on a ship, and that can be taken for further selling. So the Kushanas were doing what? And every part of this Silk Route, people were taking taxes. They were taking taxes from the traders, and they were saying that okay, give us tax and we will provide this security and protection, because this silk was quite expensive. So you will not be subjected to any problem in our regime, our area, but you need to give us taxes, and that taxes was a very good money, very good money. I hope you got the idea. So these, I am giving an example of Kushanas. This is true for every route we are talking about. Okay. So we talked about Silk Route, and now we are going to talk about Buddhism. But since this is a very important topic, I think we are going to take it in the next discussion. Okay. Till then, thank you so much. Take care of yourself.